Welcome to the Lush Mind podcast. I'm Laurie.
I'm Keisha,
and we're the Gospel Twins.
So we talk about all things to grow, flourish, and prosper in life.
So come with us.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Lush Mind podcast. I'm Keisha.
I'm Laurie.
And we're the Gospel Twins. So recently, Laurie and I have been talking about it and trying to figure out, how do we know when God is sending somebody to us? As we're on our dating journey, as we're on that momentum, that uptick, we're trying to figure out, how can we differentiate the two? And honestly, one thing that I feel like God was telling me is, when you know it's from me is when you know that that man is genuinely pursuing you. And I'm just diving right into it, you know?
Let's get right into it. No sugarcoating. It's important to know how we know if a guy is into us or if it's from God specifically or if it's play.
Yeah, the guy is intentional. And I think, too, before they even get to that part of intentionality, it's almost like a switch kind of clicks in their minds when they see that woman.
Okay.
And it's wow, something resonates and they understand that this could be somebody special. They may not know right away that you're their wife or anything like that or see, the full scope of everything, but something does switch in their mind where they recognize something in you. And it kind of takes us back to the Bible where, we talk about Adam and Eve and how God made Eve from Adam. And when Adam saw her, he was like, woo, bone in my bone, flesh in my flesh.
Yeah.
You look good, you know what I mean? And something resonated within him to recognize, yo, she's a bit of me. There's something there. So I think, when a man initially gets that click, that's where the intentionality will come forward and he'll start to kind of pursue the woman. Because at the end of the day, men have that pursuit mindset. They have that hunter mindset. They have that go out and, get mindset. So I think the intention and how they move when they're getting to know you. We talked about in the last episode, some people are play, some people aren't serious. Some people are just out here for the different seasons, enjoying life. But then there are men who actually understand, no, in this moment, I am ready to take my life to the next level and I need a partner in order to get certain things, get a wife, to get things rolling, So how they pursue you is kind of what we'll talk about a little bit so that you can kind of understand, is this guy play or is this somebody that could be genuinely from God?
And I think, talking about the aspect of, really love at first sight. We talk about Adam in the Bible, and a lot of the, people in the Bible, you kind of hear those stories in a sense where, they see that person, like Jacob in the Bible. They see that woman, they're like, yo, that is my wife. I want to marry her. How can I get to that level with her? You know what I mean? I think that's so true. And I think it's definitely, innate in men. It's definitely put deep inside them, a part of that aspect of, wanting to pursue and wanting to, hunt and gather and do what they can to get the woman. They first have to see and be like, this is my person. You know what I mean? So I think that's actually a really good point. The love at first sight is real, but me, I'm always going to have the both sides of the coin, but there are some men who may actively look at you in that way and say, whoa, this is it. But it's more in a lustful mindset.
Yep.
And not in, in a lush and godly mindset. So I think as women and as men, when you're out there, you got to be mindful because sometimes that's really what it comes down to. A girl might look at you and say whoa, you're my person, you're my type down to the T, blah, blah, blah. But deep down, she may know I'm not bringing you home to the family. I'm not going to really I'm not going to introduce you to my siblings and all this stuff. I just want to kind of explore it, but I know it's not serious.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from the guy's perspective, that initial point that we'll touch on, how do you know this woman is from God, is the way she carries herself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of you might have heard about the Proverbs 31 woman. She was a woman who had worth and knew her worth. She was a businesswoman. She was a nurturer. She had so many gifts. And I feel from a man's perspective, when you meet that woman and maybe you get that little click, now you start to see, do her characteristics kind of, line up, And, do you feel you're receiving, that energy, that nurturing, that encouragement? It's a different level.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You may lack in patience, and the woman has ample patience, ample grace. And it's the things that you need in order to thrive and to flourish, like that woman has those attributes. So I think from a man's perspective, one way to, know if it's a God-given woman is like, how does her strengths play into your like weaknesses, if that makes sense,
Yeah, I think that's a definite good point. Like a lot of the times when we look at when a man knows like this is who they want to be with, it's not like they are looking for someone who matches them. As women, that's what we tend to do. We actually want to find someone who likes the same interests as us, who, believes in God and has all the same kind of criteria, but just a little bit more than us. So, we talk about believing in God, like a lot of women want someone who is a bit more deeper in their faith than themselves. Or if they're at the gym as a woman, they want a man who's more D's and is at the gym more than them.
To help train you.
To help train you, right? So the idea as a woman, we want that man who's, just a little bit more than us to help us level up too. For a man's perspective, they're not looking for similarities. They're not looking for someone who's par with them. They actually want someone who can bring a little bit
like a value add, like add
value, something different, because that man already is on that level. They are at the gym. They are doing whatever they have to do. So they want someone who's going to bring something a bit different that will strengthen what they have already and bring it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good point that you brought up. And I think too, like another, insight that God gave us too is like, when it comes to God from a man or a woman perspective, like write the vision down. If you know in your heart, like, man, I really would love somebody who's like generous, or I really would love somebody who is patient, or whatever the characteristic is, like writing it down, making it simple, like so that when you come across that person and they have those certain characteristics, it's easier to identify. And a lot of times too, like you can get those standards, you can get those like, characteristics from people in the Bible, or even like how it talks about love in the Bible. It says love is patient, love is kind, love is not selfish. Like there's literally a whole paragraph outlining the characteristics of love and true love. So it helps to give that like, guiding point to see like if I want a godly man or a godly woman, or even just in general, if you're not a believer, like if I want a good person, like what are the characteristics of a good person?
Values?
Genuinely.
Because it's true, like you may not actively believe in God and you love watching our episodes. Like the reality of it is, it still ties into everyday life.
Yeah.
What are the values that you're looking for in a woman? Hands down, you know what I'm saying? That you genuinely know can help add to your life. A lot of times, you hear it on dating shows and you see it all the time. They're like, oh, like, what do you bring to the table? And a lot of women don't like that question of what do you bring to the table, because it makes them feel like they have to like do something to be in your presence at the table. But I think it's important to look at it in the sense of like, what are you going to add to the relationship? You can't come empty-handed as a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm just being honest. Like, I think sometimes in this modern dating, a lot of like people, not just women, but guys and girls, they are like, coming almost like expectant. Like it's a buffet situation and you didn't even pay to get into the buffet and you think you're going to get to eat everything, you know what I'm saying, for free, So I think it's such a dangerous mindset. So just almost like be mindful of people who are like that, who are coming to you and expecting the most and expecting you to do everything and bring everything. But when it comes to, what do you bring to the table? Try not to take it as an offensive thing. It's more so when guys ask that question, they want to know really what values, what goals, what ambitions do you have that will correlate with what I have to see if it's going to level us up to the next degree. Because they already know what they have in the fridge. They already know what they can prepare and put on the table in front of you and really give you what you want. So they want to kind of know what exactly can you do. So I find like a lot of people get offended with that, and I had to touch on it. There are going to be people who are over expectant.
Yeah.
So just be mindful, you know what I'm saying? And ask the proper questions. Like, how is this person presenting themselves? You know what I mean? Like, how are they coming to you? How are they speaking to you? How are they treating you? Are they expecting you to bend backwards just to hang out? You know what I mean? While they don't even leave their yard.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, a lot of times with guys, they know kind of where they're going and like what path that they're on. You know what I mean? Quote unquote, like they know their purpose of like, I really see myself, owning a business, or I really see myself like continuing in this field of health or whatever the case may be. Like they kind of know the trajectory of where they're going.
Not all men, but we're
Not
talking about
all.
the ones who are like in a point where they're getting
They're
serious.
ready.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. So when they ask that question, like they really are trying to see, like, are we aligned to some degree? Like if I'm trying to pursue healthcare and you're over here trying to do fashion, like we may not benefit each other or like have skill sets that might benefit each other.
Or they may, bringing something different. Because remember, from a woman's perspective, you may think healthcare and healthcare, but from a man's perspective, they may look at the fashion and healthcare and be okay, well, from the healthcare perspective, the man's going to bring good food and help me to level up that way. From the woman's perspective, the fashion, she's going to help me dress nice as a man and make me look good. So
it could be
remember, the men is kind of like the difference. 100%, you know?
Yeah, it could be an opposite thing, but at the same time, like you want to make sure long term, like your goals are going to align. Like if you're trying to travel the world and do fashion, the man's stuck at the hospital here in Toronto. You have to make sure things can,
align.
Exactly. So when that question comes about, like of the value add, like you do have to kind of see if the long-term goals can mesh. You know what I mean? Because I love what you said, like both industries can correlate and complement, but it has to be on a similar trajectory.
And it has to be for the greater good and for purpose. Like I think a lot of times we forget that purpose in a relationship is so key. If you're dating to date and like that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? But if you're trying to date with intention and you really are trying to get to that level, you want to find someone who sees your purpose. You let them know this is your purpose and they tell you their purpose and you work together in that, growing towards that purpose together. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Nobody wants someone who's going to hold them back. Let's be real. Like you said, like the man could be in Toronto, like working as a doctor. He can't travel. And you as a woman may want to travel every day.
Yeah.
The purpose of him working in the hospital and trying to do that is going to go against your purpose, which is maybe to travel and explore before you have kids, right? So you really do need to make sure you're aligned in what you are actually seeking.
And a lot of times, you'll hear like the woman, comes in with the supportive role, the nurturing, things like that. But I think from a woman's perspective, looking at a man too, like it's great to know his vision, great to know like where he wants to go and like, take things. Because at the end of the day, like if they're going to be the one who takes on that role to say provide financially, if that's the case, then yeah, you want to know what he's doing and how you can help and how you can support. But on our perspective too, like sharing our goals, sharing our visions to make sure like, is that man willing and able to support you in your dreams? Kind of like what you're saying with the traveling, like, can there be a compromise? Like maybe you can't travel as much, but let's aim to travel twice a year. Or if I do a 1-2 trip with my family or something, like, like they're supportive in what you're trying to do too. Because ultimately, if both goals are there to help better the household, then it should be something where there is give and take to help both people succeed. And eventually, as you merge, like down the road, things may happen where you can open a business or something where it's like he may not now be stagnant because he has like a team under him or, where it will mesh down the road. But really kind of getting both perspectives up front is always good to kind of just see like, do we even blend in that sense?
And even as you say that, like it's such a good point. Like you want to get both perspectives because you want to be able to see if you both can help each other in that growth and in that purpose. A lot of times when we come to relationships, it's not just a take or a give, which is happening so much in the modern dating life. You know what I'm saying? Like people are expectant in different ways. And you want to make sure if I'm generally looking to grow my business in whatever avenue, right? And the man might be looking to grow his business in whatever avenue. We should be able to come together and say, you know what? I respect what you're doing. Have you actually tried doing this, and that? That could also help grow your business and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like helping each other to get to those next degrees together as a couple goal, relationship goals. I've seen situations where one person wants to grow and the other person doesn't want to grow at all, or there's situations where that person who wants to grow is being told not to grow by their spouse because their spouse may want them to stay at home and just be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So those are kind of toxic relationships in the grand scheme because they're stopping your growth. They're stopping your light and from flourishing and exploring life. You know what I mean? So you want to really make sure early on, how is this person? Are they someone who seems like they're open to help you grow? Are they showing those signs or are they already giving you that red flag that they don't really want you to do more than you have to do?
Yeah, which is a good point that you brought up, And I was also just thinking about another point too, like sometimes we have to be open and flexible on our vision, you know what I mean, or on our
Okay. What do
purpose.
you mean?
So for example, if you know, say you want to be in fashion,
Mhm.
I just keep using fashion because it is what it is. But
That's what you did, and I did healthcare.
I did it exactly. Maybe that's why subconsciously. But if you know you want to be in fashion, you thought like in your brain, like, okay, like I'm going to work for the big retailer here in Canada or whatever. But God may be calling you to go to another country or relocate to another area where you kind of have to like start fresh. Doesn't mean you have to leave fashion, but it just might look differently. So I think being flexible, because if again you meet somebody who aligns with everything you're trying to do characteristic wise, like they're pursuing you intentionally and like actually having the serious conversations, like sometimes you may have to kind of pivot and see how God leads that situation, and you may end up working for the biggest retailer in London, UK, like but you in your mind thought like, oh, I always wanted to be in Toronto. So it's like keeping the purpose but being flexible, because again, like if you're intentionally working towards building a partnership, that can happen anywhere, you know, but sometimes we do get limited in our own thoughts and stuff where we could miss out just because of our comfort zone, you know, which kind of ties into like when we talk about.
But even before you go into
Yeah,
that, basically,
okay.
I love how you're talking about the fact that you do have to be flexible when it comes to the purpose and when it comes to relationships. Because just like in the Bible, a lot of times you see that the woman may go out and leave her family and go to a new land. You know, look at Moses and his situation, right? There's a lot of situations, Joseph, like a lot of times there is a calling where you may have to move to a whole new place. And that's where God will use that new place to start something new. Look at Ruth. We talked about Ruth before. She left Moab and she went with, like, you know what I mean? Like she left her actual hometown.
Yeah.
Right? So I find in my understanding and my research as we look into dating, sometimes we may be called to leave our comfort zone. And it may be easy and we may like, you know, be caught up in like the comfort and not wanting to leave our cities. But God can use that move for something so great. And we've seen it happen in so many people's lives, not just in the Bible, but in so many people's lives. You know what I mean? So I love how you mentioned that. Like it is biblical. Don't be afraid to leave your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Try a thing. Go to that next place with him. If if God's calling you to be with a man who is in another country, try and see and let God lead. If you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, again, we have these certain lists in our mind, you know, like, and a lot of times it's drawn out of the comfort, drawn out of like preference, you know, like I want my man to be 6'5" and I want my, you know, him to make 6 figures and I want this. And guys may say like, I want my girl to have a big butt or I want her to be like this and realistically, like those lists we put together in our mind, like how is that going to support you and how is that going to benefit you in the long term? You know what I mean? But I think sometimes we have to rearrange a list or even rip up our list, you know, and actually start to write down like, where am I going? Like kind of how we touched about the vision, like write the vision down. Like what are you actually trying to do with your life? And what kind of person would you need alongside you to actually propel you to that next level? You know, because it's easy to let, you know, our eyes and our preferences.
It's easy to build a bear. You know what I'm saying? Build a man. Like, let's be real. A lot of times we get caught up in making the list, but it becomes an ingredient list. And we think that, okay, they have to be tall. They have to have, you know, chocolate skin. They have to be, you know, have abs. They have to hit all these things, make 6 figures. You know what I mean? Like, they have to be on these next levels. And I think it's important to remember we're not making a man. We're not building, you know, a bear. We don't need ingredients. We want to make sure that we are seeking God in specific attributes, not physical, but internal. You know, only things that God could put in that man before he even met you. You know, so say, for example, on like the vision board or even on the list that you're writing down, you're asking God for someone who is genuinely honest and caring. That is something you cannot do to make a man. You know what I'm saying? He has to come to you and show you from the beginning, like that is who he is. And that's how you know that that's something God put in him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you're with a man and you're saying to the man, I need you to be more caring, like I need you to give me more money for help with the household or to pay the gas or whatever the case may be. Like you may say, I need you to do this. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you can do that and hope that the man hears you and changes, because deep down God is now working on that man and changing that man to hear his wife or his girl. But The idea is you genuinely want someone who has that inside them already, where you don't feel like you have to kind of keep, asking and going on about that.
Yeah. And even if it's unspoken or unwritten, like, again, God knows your heart. He knows what you're looking for. He knows who will compliment you. And those are the types of things, like, as you get to know that person, like, if something resonates with you, like, maybe, for example, like, we talk about love languages, and you hear about love languages, and, like, somebody's might be physical touch, for example, like, but maybe growing up as a kid, like, they didn't get much hugs, or they didn't get much love in that sense. So, like, they yearn for that. And sometimes you might not even realize, like, that's kind of where it comes from, But then you meet somebody, and, like, every time they see you, they hug you, they pick you up, or they hold your hand when you're out on the street, and, like
they naturally meet
your love language, like, without even the unspokenness,
Wow.
And that's, again, another way to resonate, like, yo, maybe this person is from God, because, like, I didn't even realize that I was missing that, like, quality, and I didn't write it on my list because I'm not thinking about it, but God knows your heart, and, like, will bring somebody who hits those parts of you that you might not even realize. So I think it's another indication where it's like, if it resonates with you, like, that's another quality you could, use as well.
Wow, that's deep, yo.
Yeah, man. I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm just like, you don't know until you know.
You don't always know what you want.
And that's why you have to put your trust in God, because He will be the one to say, like, you know what? I know you need somebody with a little patience. Like, let me bring somebody with patience. And then once you experience that patience, you're like, wow, like,
I needed a man who had patience.
Yeah.
Like, I needed a man who hit that mark.
Yeah.
And that's such a deep point that you're making.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you don't know you need it until you need it. You know what I mean? And you don't realize it until you even sometimes start to compare it. You're like exes. You're like, yo, like, I was always rushing on to get to the date on time because I was stressed out. And anybody who knows me knows, like, time is, like, relative to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say it doesn't exist.
It's a theory in Laurie's world, where to me, I'm like, girl.
And, so it's one of those things where I don't let time run me. I let God run me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not always on time. Okay? But the reality of it is, like, even with one of my exes, I remember, like, always being stressed out. Like, oh my gosh, I'm running late. He's going to say something. He's like, it's going to be a thing. You know what I mean? Like, why is it always a thing? But then, like, dating after that ex and, like, meeting someone else, like, that has patience in that aspect. I remember I was running so late for the date. I don't know why, but it was, like, a good amount of time. And, like, when I texted the guy saying, like, I'm so sorry, he's like, yo, don't even worry. Take your time. Like, I can do some work on my phone. Like, don't even stress it. And I remember thinking, like, wow. Like, as much as I know I have to be better when it comes to time, because I want to honor people's time. I don't want to always be late. But in that moment, I was like, that shows me someone's heart and their kindness and their patience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's a great feeling, you know what I mean? And I think once you start to reflect, once you start to see, like, what do I actually, need? And writing down your own qualities that you might have noticed within yourself. Like, I feel like I'm a good listener. I feel like I'm a this, like, so that you kind of know the type of person you are. And then that way, you know your strengths. So when you meet somebody, like, you can kind of, like, show your characteristics in that sense, like, and that might resonate with them, So it's good to know who you are and what you need so that you can create that list and then let God be the one to edit and mark it up and, switch and rearrange,
I think even when it comes to, like, the aspect of knowing who you are, sometimes it's hard for us to know who we are because we don't always take the time to stop and really reflect on our experiences in life, our dating experiences, whatever the case is. I mean, a lot of people who go to therapy, they do get that benefit of having that reflection because the therapist normally will start back at that place of, okay, let's start to peel back each layer to find out who you are and what makes you you. But a lot of us don't have that opportunity. So it's important to even write a list on things that you genuinely in yourself want to work on with God. Like, for example, how I mentioned, I'm always late. I'm not going to front. And I don't boast about it. Like, it just happens. You know what I mean? Life is life, of course. There could be reasons and everything. But I do want to get to a point where I'm not always late. So for me, I'm going to now bring that to God and say, God, help me with this. Help me so that I am honoring people's time, and not, like, getting lost in time, basically. So I think it's important to also do the list on the opposite end and really think about all your relationships from the past. Think about your experiences in the past, what you learned from them, how you want to be better, or what you still feel like you might be holding on to. Is it pride that you may be holding on to? You know what I mean? Is it, like, sometimes easy to get like mad or whatever the case is, you know, what is it that you are taking with you in each relationship? You know what I mean? So that you can stop and block it from going into the next relationship as we start the year.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's one of those times like in this season, you know, to really just prepare, you know, reflect, prepare so that you can be the best version of yourself for that person and vice versa. Hopefully they're going to be becoming the best person for you. And ultimately, it's a growth in general. Like, even if it's not even in the dating sense, like working on yourself so you can be the best business person, you can be the best mom, you can be the best whatever it is at whatever stage of life you're in right now, because you never know who you'll meet or how you'll connect in that sense. So takeaway from this episode is really just reflect, write your list down, see what God's saying about it, and keep your eyes peeled, keep your heart open. Like, don't be too rigid, don't be too comfortable. Like, try and open up your horizons and, you know, give people a chance, because you never know who, you know, could fit that mold.
Exactly. And always remember as well, when it comes to dating relationships, making sure you are seeking within as well. Ask God to reveal what needs to be revealed, uproot whatever needs to be uprooted, so that you know you are bringing your best self into that relationship. And you also know your worth. So that if somebody does come to you play, and they're not serious, you know what I'm saying? And they want to take, or whatever the case may be, you are able to know that's something that you are not going to let fly. You're not going to allow that. You know what I mean? So always remember that as well.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. We got a little 1-2 tips. Let us know in the comments if anything resonated with you. If have you already met your person? Like, share the details, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And remember, if you want a lush life, you gotta have a lush mind.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Take care.